Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF World Champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 434 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger, my main man Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week?
I'm good, my man. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. We're going to waste no time. We're going to dive straight into the review part of the show. I'm deciding to start here at the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas in the Chelsea Ballroom, Las Vegas, Nevada, USA. It was live on DAZN, a Matchroom show. Going to touch on the undercard, Johnny Fisher. He pretty much steamrolled Dimitro Bezus, who had been stopped in 2 rounds to David Adelaide, was stopped in 1 round here. He was just on the ropes and, Johnny Fisher, like I say, was letting his hands go. Bezus wasn't really firing back, and the referee jumped in and stopped it. So a first round stoppage. Johnny Fisher looked quite good, and he came into the fight with a cut on the bridge of his nose that he sustained in sparring with Michael Hunter. He's now 11-0 though, Johnny Fisher. Good to see the Romford Bull on tour. Special shout out as well to Khalil Ko with a good win. He's now 8-0 with a draw, a TKO for him in round 2 against Juan Osuna, who was 20-0. He was down 3 times in that second round. Also on the card, Austin Amo Williams with a knockout in round 7. I didn't see this fight, but he's now 16-0. It was a battle of the undefeateds. He took the O away from Armel Yasser, who's now 10-1. Yasser down in round 6 and 7. And then, the main event, Conor Benn, now 23-0, a unanimous decision over 12 rounds at welterweight against Peter Dobson, now 16-1. I haven't seen this fight. Just briefly, Eddie, I don't think you've seen it either before I carry on.
No, I didn't actually get a chance to see this one. But I kind of wanted to because I actually got some information on it from a source. I don't even know who the guy was, but I was looking at a video, and he was talking about how, you should bet on an early stoppage, I think, on that because of the way, the last, I think, 5 or 6 fights he had. He was actually in that team boxing league thing too. So, but he was saying it, he didn't look good, this, that, and turns out that he actually went to the full distance, which was kind of crazy. But anyway, I didn't see it. But I did want to check it out. I just didn't get a chance to. Sorry.
No. Same here. I was at the fight in Wembley, and I was obviously unable to watch the fight live. And when a fight goes the distance and you hear that it's gone the distance, I really struggle to want to watch it back. I was at the fight, what we'll get onto in a moment. But I was obviously, getting little updates during, because obviously both main events clashed, so I was getting little updates, and it sounded to me like Conor Benn started really fast. He did really well in the first and second round. I think maybe the third round it looked like he was just going to stop this guy Dobson, but then Dobson apparently landed some good shots himself and basically got a lot of the respect of Benn, and then somehow it ended up going 12 rounds. That's the first time that Benn has gone 12 rounds, so that's a box ticked there. But once again, it's another kind of I don't want to say a bad look, because look, he's fighting away from home, a long way from home, and he's taking an undefeated fighter's record away, in their backyard, so to speak. So I don't want to kick him too much, but obviously we have to mention it. It's the second fight back since the foul drugs test. And it's the second time he's gone the distance, and obviously he doesn't seem like he is punching as hard, at least, as he was in the past. So this this going the distance malarkey is doing him, it's doing him no good. That's the truth of it. A lot of people are starting to get very suspicious. Like I say, I don't know, but I'm not going to be watching it back. But like I say, apparently he looked pretty average in there. They're calling out all the big names. I think they mentioned, so many names. I mean, he's called out literally everyone. I think Gervonta Davis was mentioned, Adrian Broner, Mario Barrios. There's so many names. Hopefully, I mean, they're talking about Kell Brook. I would hate to see that fight. I'd hate him to be able to beat, a version of Kell Brook that's just a shell of his former self. That would be a real sad way for Kell Brook's career to come to an end. So I don't want to see that. They're calling out Eubank Jr. again. I can't see how Ben could win that fight. And I can't remember who else they called out. I think they called out someone else. I can't remember who it was now. But anyway, they're calling out all these big names. Hopefully we see a fight, that's of substance. I'd like to see him in with Mario Barrios, to be honest. I think that'd be a good fight at welterweight. But yeah, moving to the final card to mention of the review part of the show. It went down at the Wembley Arena. It was live on Sky Sports. I was lucky enough to be there in attendance. Special shout out to Alex, who is from a podcast as well. I don't often give other podcasts a shout out, but he's from a podcast called Sport de Song, or Sport de Sang, if you're pronouncing it with absolutely no accent at all. You can find those guys at Sport DESANG. So a guy called Alex runs that podcast there. He's a friend of mine through Boxing Media. He reached out to me, and basically I wasn't accredited as media. I think I said that on last week's show. Boxer have never given me an accreditation for whatever reason. So Alex came through and said that he had a ticket that I could take and go with him. So we went together and it was really fun. So shout out to him. But yeah, on the card itself, I'm going to start with the very bottom of it. Francesca Hennessy, now 3-0, a points win for her. I expected her to probably get a stoppage against this girl, because I think Laura Valdebenito was pretty much I think she was pretty much a super flyweight, or maybe a flyweight. She was fighting at bantamweight, and I think in the end the fight actually took place at featherweight. So I really thought, Hennessy's a good puncher. She's a lot bigger. She's going to probably stop her, but no. It went the distance over 6-2s. Valdebenito had a point deducted in round 6 for hitting on the break though. But yeah, very clear victory for Hennessy there. Also on the card, Jamie TKV with a decent win, to be honest with you. He's now 6-1, a points victory over 6 rounds against Konstantin Dovbychenko, the heavyweight journeyman danger man. He's now 10-15 with a draw, still never been stopped. Jamie TKV did have a point deducted in round 5 for repeated low blows. But yeah, no, it was quite a good performance, because obviously TKV was coming off that stoppage defeat last time out to that Brazilian fighter whose name at the moment has escaped my thoughts. But Dovbychenko, he's always a tough guy, always, comes, for a fight. He doesn't come to lay down at all. And I thought he was going to probably ask questions of TKV. But TKV, he was very impressive, I've got to say. I didn't expect him to do as well as he did. I think he targeted the body of Dovbychenko quite a lot, which I think is an interesting tactic, one that we haven't seen so much. I think he felt some of those body shots in there on Saturday night, but usually he fights against guys that want to headhunt. So a good win for TKV. He's back to winning ways, 6-1. Ben Whittaker now 6-0, a TKO for him in round 5 of 8. Gradier, his opponent Khalid Gradier, now 10-14-5. He was down in the second round from a body shot, nice left hook to the body. And he was down once as well prior to the stoppage in round 5. Ben Whittaker, typical Ben Whittaker performance, very flashy, very elusive. I love his head movement. I like a lot of his moves. They're very hard to pull off. I know that, some people think it's distasteful. He's fighting a guy levels and levels below him, but he is very good, and I don't think he cares too much about what people think. I think he wants to be a Marmite type of fighter. People are going to tune in, whether it's to see him win, to see him, entertain, or hoping that he gets stopped. So it is what it is. I don't think he cares. He's just going to take as many viewing figures as he can get. And yeah, I've seen people chop up the fight into a few little clips, and I've seen the clips go viral. So he is doing the rounds right now for some crazy boxing skills the other night. So all the best to him. I wasn't too bothered by what he was doing. I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, Grady is a tough guy. I expected it to go a few rounds, and yeah, not many people stop him, so it's a good win for Ben Whittaker. Also on the card, we'll be speaking to her a little bit later, but Caroline Dubois with a successful defense of her IBO Lightweight World title over 10 2-minute rounds. She's now 9-0, a unanimous decision. She won absolutely every round, so a shutout victory against Miranda Reyes, now 7-2 with a draw. Dubois looked good. I think, she's going to become a world champion, a proper world champion at some point in the near future. It has to happen. She seems very, very talented, and I think she can hang with the best of them in terms of skill for skill. What else do we have? Adam Azim with a win, a unanimous decision. Oh, sorry, not unanimous decision, a knockout win for him in round 5. I don't know where I was going with unanimous decision, but yeah, we saw him move to 11-0. Enoch Paulson, the opponent, now 14-1. You could see straight away he threw a shot or something like that. I can't remember exactly how it happened now, but straight away he dislocated his shoulder, and I said to Alex next to me, I said, that is a dislocated shoulder straight away. And he took a knee, he stayed down, went back to his corner. Referee counted him out, by the way, before he went back to his corner, and he couldn't continue. So a successful defence for Azim there. It was a defence there for his EBU European Super Lightweight title. Paulson, like I say, counted out after suffering a shoulder injury. Sad way to go out for him, but he wasn't really in the fight. I think Azim was dominating as expected. And then the main event, Dan Aziz, now 20-1. He lost his O. He lost his British and Commonwealth light heavyweight titles. He was down twice in round 11, though they were both, in my opinion, somewhat slips. I know between rounds the people were jumping in the ring with towels trying to dry up the floor, and it was happening a few times in between rounds, so I don't know how wet the canvas was getting during rounds. But anyways, Dan Aziz down twice. Punches did land, but like I say, he was down very hard, and he seemed like he lost his footing, at least in one of the two knockdowns. Joshua Buatsi still undefeated, 18-0. Like I say, unanimous decision in the end for him over 12. I thought that he would win quite comfortably from the very get-go. I thought he'd either, stop him late or win on points. And he did win on points in the end. It wasn't all that competitive. I think Dan Aziz had some moments early on, but as the fight went on, I think Buatsi seemed to have more in the tank. Buatsi at times seemed to not be able to miss as well with the left hook, like this long looping kind of left hook he'd throw. He kept catching Aziz with it. He seemed to have no answer for it, but he scored a lot with that punch. But all in all, I just think, I didn't really learn much about Buatsi, but I think he's the better all-round fighter than Dan Aziz, and he had everything to answer for whatever Dan Aziz brought to the table. He had an answer and more, Joshua Buatsi, as I expected. For me, though, it wasn't really a fantastic fight, and I kind of felt the same thing throughout the whole card. I don't think there was any really great fights. It seemed to kind of go by quite slowly the whole entire night. I mean, there was only 6 fights on the whole card, but it seemed to last forever. And like I said, there weren't really many great fights at all. So that Dan Aziz and Joshua Buatsi fight, from where I was sitting, didn't seem that great. But anyway, that was my view. I know that you did see some of that one, Eddie. What was your views on it before we wrap up part 1 and welcome our special guest?
Well, truthfully, I watched the highlights of it, and from the highlights, there are the highlights. It looked to be like a pretty decent scrap. But one thing I can say, and we talked about it last week, that, you mentioned how much better technically and, just a better all-around fighter that Buatsi was, it showed throughout it. You know what I mean? Like, there were points, even though there was action and, Aziz would try to, come back with some stuff. And he landed some decent shots, early on. But like you said, as the fight started to, typically the cream rises to the top. And, that's what happened in this situation too. So, he had some success early, coming in. He's tough. He's strong. He wants to bring the fight. But eventually, it seemed like Joshua Buatsi was really, really good at timing and catching him with, like you said, that left hook. He caught him with some really, really good left hooks during the course of that fight. And the knockdowns did look a little dodgy at times, not at times, they could have been slips, but good shots landed at that time. So you can't not give credit. So they should have just done a better job on the ring and keeping it dry. But at the end of the day, that's the nature of boxing. You get hit, you go down, regardless of what it is. It could be a slip. You got to have to get up and get it back some kind of way. And just unfortunately, I don't think he had enough firepower or the skill level to really keep up with what Buatsi was doing. So, interesting fight. It looked to be a good fight, but like I said, I was watching the highlights. So I can't really, say it. Like I even said to you, Joe, on, off camera, not off camera, but off the pod, we talk about how exciting it looked to me from the vantage point that I was in. But obviously I was kind of mistaken, I guess, because you're saying it wasn't that exciting. So, but from what I saw, it was an interesting looking fight, but it did look to be controlled by one guy. And even though he had some success at times, it was just clearly going to be his night. So good fight. Interesting fight, I guess. Good contrast of styles. But Buatsi, I'm kind of, interested because he looked pretty good. I'm kind of interested. I'm actually interested to see what he does as he goes forward, and what other matchups he can get. He seems to be a pretty decent fighter.
Yeah, positional-wise, he's put himself now in line for the winner of Beterbiev and Bivol. However, it doesn't seem to me that he's quite at that level just yet. There are some great fights that can be made domestically. Obviously, for years now, we've been talking about Anthony Yarde against Joshua Buatsi. It'd be great to see that one, but, politically it probably won't work. And Dan Aziz, I think there's still a lot of guys he could face domestically, even though he cleaned up most of it. I'd like to see him with Craig Richards. There's some guys there for him as well. But yeah, for Buatsi, obviously he's in the stronger position of the two. But what I'm trying to say is I think both guys have got doors that are open in the near future for them both. But anyway, that brings the review part to a close. It's now time to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated and reigning IBO Female Lightweight Champion of the world. It is, of course, Miss Caroline Dubois. Caroline, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure. So, Caroline, it's the first time you've been on, so welcome once again. You've been a pro now for almost 2 years. You made your pro debut February 2022 against the very, very tough Vida Macio-Kate. She took you the distance over 6. She's currently racked up 21 losses, but has only been stopped just the one time, which, like I say, is testament to how tough a girl she is. What do you remember about your pro debut, Caroline?
Yeah, it was a good experience. It was in Cardiff. It was a big card as well, so I was really put out there straight away. I remember it was a Eubank versus Williams, I think it was, and it was a big card, and I remember being excited, and I remember telling myself for my first year as a pro, I just want to get used to fighting under the bright lights. I want to get used to fighting what's the word, like in front of the cameras, in the whole build up. I've never done a fight week before, and that was the thing that most the thing that was gonna be the most troublesome for me is the fact that it's the whole fight week, the build up. And I remember just trying to enjoy it. Obviously, the way I fight, I always try and go for the stoppage. And after the fight, I remember realizing that pros is not the same as the amateurs. And if I was an amateur and I'd fought that girl, she would have been stopped straight away. But the pros, you have to do proper knockdowns. You have to really put hands on a person and, really dent them and let the ref know that, you're ready to get them out of there for it to be a stoppage. And it was a good learning experience for me. And I remember being, just excited that my pro career was on the way.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned there about getting a proper stoppage. Obviously, after going the distance on your pro debut, you string together 5 consecutive knockout wins. It's not something we see too often in women's boxing, that kind of knockout streak. Was that the Dubois in you shining through?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I feel like what I've learned growing up is that I've always got power. I've trained very hard from a young kid. My dad obviously made us train very hard, and physical strength is obviously an attribute. But what I've also had to learn is that just being strong doesn't mean that you're gonna get a knockout or you're gonna be a knockout person. You know what I mean? It's skill. Yeah, and boxing is a skill sport, and even when you see people get knockouts, it's all done through skill.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously in the pros, I mean, your brother Daniel had made quite a big name for himself before you even turned pro. We've seen in many cases that the sibling that turns pro second kinda in some cases lives in the shadow sometimes of their older sibling. But I don't know if that happens with a brother and sister. It's more of a brother and brother thing, I think.
Yeah, definitely. What you said is true. Definitely more of a brother thing. But because I'm a female, I've managed to make my own name. I've managed to create my own buzz. Everyone wants to see who the girl is. And female boxing is so different from men. There's no real comparison. We don't fight the same time. We don't fight the same distance. It's a different kettle of fish. And female boxing is booming right now, so there's gonna be interest. And I'm so lucky to be a woman right now. I realize that. So yeah, I feel like I haven't really had to fight to prove my own name, and especially going to the Olympics. I'm coming from pedigree of my own, and I've got the skills to back it up.
And after those knockouts, you beat Yanina Lescano on points, and then obviously that was what leads us into the IBO world title fight against former world title challenger Magali Rodriguez. Rodriguez had lost by majority decision for the WBA world title to Irma Garcia. She also lost by majority decision to Erica Cruz. She's a very good fighter. However, you beat her unanimously over 10. You dropped her 3 times along the way. Talk me through that one. That was a great win.
Yeah, it was a great fight. One that it was my first 10-rounder, and I remember going in thinking a lot like I wanted to pace myself. I wanted to take my time, and I wanted to see how I dealt with the experience of someone who's coming from had a very strong background, and I wanted to know, I wanted to deal with all that, see how I came up, and I thought I did rather well. Yeah, and I just remember thinking, okay, kick on now, press on now. I have the ability to knock someone down and hurt them on late, and yeah, it gave me a lot of confidence.
And then, of course, most recently, I was lucky enough to be there in attendance on Saturday night. You completely shut out Miranda Reyes over 10. Reyes was coming off her career best win over Yasmin Rivas. Talk me through the fight on Saturday. Another dominant performance, Caroline.
She was a very interesting girl. She was very weird throughout the whole fight, but it was a good fight. I feel like I haven't watched it back, so I don't know what happens. But whenever you're in a fight, it's very hard to give an opinion on it unless it was like either you win or you knock someone out. It's very hard. It's not until you can watch it back that you really have a good opinion. I haven't watched it back yet, so I haven't really got a strong opinion on it, but I feel like there's a lot for me to improve on. There's a lot of things that I can think of just off the top of my head going into it that I want to improve on. And I told my coach, Shane, I told my team, and I'm ready to go again. And this is the first one of the year, and really just set a stamp on the lightweight division. There was a lot in that fight that I felt like I did well, but also a lot that I can tell and see that needs improvement. And yeah, I feel like I'm going to be working on that for my next one.
You talk about the next one there. When do you want to be out next, Caroline?
Soon as possible. I've been told April. That's only 2 months away, so I'm just going to take this week off and get back in the gym. And it's gonna be a big one. Hopefully there'll be an announcement by the end of this week or early next week, and y'all will see, there's a big announcement and it's a big, a big statement. So yeah.
Caroline, you just sound a tiny bit muffled.
Am I better now?
100 times better now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll move on to the next question. All of that's good so far. There's a lot of good fighters in your division, lightweight, obviously. Domestically, you've got Rhiannon Dixon fighting for a world title in April. You've got the likes of Beatrice Ferreira out there. I know that some of these fights politically will be tougher to make than the actual fight itself.
Yeah.
But are these the types of fights that you want to be involved in?
Definitely, 100%. I feel like I'm in the right time to be a female boxer and the right time to have turned pro, because there's girls turning over from the Olympics, and obviously the Olympics is going to be happening this year, and I think a lot more girls will turn over. I mean, there's so many big names at lightweight. I feel like lightweight for the women is a very popular weight because, we naturally sit around 66, 60 kilos, and so there's always going to be more women at that weight class. And right now, there's big names, as you said, Beatrice Ferreira, Rhiannon Dixon, Karen Carver-Hall, Katie Taylor. I'm not sure if she's going to be coming up or staying down. And then at 140, there's names. So in and around that weight, there's big names. Even Alicia Baumgardner, she's been vocal that she wants to move up in weight. And there's some good fights. And I'm so happy to be around at this time and at this weight and be available for it,
Yeah, there's a lot of big names. I love most of them fights that you've mentioned there. I know that obviously your nickname is Sweet Caroline. I'm not expecting you to call anyone out as such, but is there anyone on your radar in terms of names, or is it just pretty much whoever?
Yeah, I feel like all boxers want to fight each other. I don't think there's many boxers that are truly afraid of each other. They may be, wary or cautious, but they understand that eventually one way or another, you're going to end up in the ring with each other. One way or another, you're going to be on a crash course. And whoever's the best, they're going to end up crashing into each other. The cream always rises. And I believe I'm the cream. I'm the cream of the crop. And whoever else who is there is my number one, number two, they'll be up there beside me. So I believe anyone who's good, anyone who sees themselves being a world champion, anyone who is a world champion is who I'll be looking to be stepping in the ring with,
It's exciting times. Also, a good friend of mine as well, Craig Richards, has just joined your gym. Obviously, he's fighting this weekend. I haven't spoke to him for a little while, but how's he been looking? It's a good addition, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. He's been looking really well in the gym. He's been sparring Ben Whitaker recently. He's been sparring Zach Chili, who just went and won the British title. He's been sparring some good people. Chris Billum, he helped Chris for his preparation for the Mastinek fight. Chevron Clark, he's been sparring. And what I've been seeing in the gym lets me know that this guy is definitely up there. It's a shame that, he's been so unlucky previously, but I feel like he is really a special talent, and I feel like he just needs the person and the timing, He needs to be the favorite, and I feel like a lot of times he's been stepping into fights not as the favorite, not as the one that people are pushing to win. But now I feel like that is switching over a little bit, and he's really shown his class, stepping up and fighting Bivol and stepping up with these big names guys, and he's been in there, He's never been outclassed, never been, really outdone, and I feel like he's a special talent, and it's only a matter of time until people begin to see that. And what I've been seeing in the gym has been really good. His sparring has been top tier, and he's a really good addition to the gym because he's such a nice guy, and he's so easy to get along with. There's people like you can't find anything to fault them, and he's just one of those people. You can't find anything that you can fault with him. He's just a good person, and obviously a very good athlete.
Yeah, really nice guy. Probably gave Bivol his best fight. I think it's a good move for him. And great to see him with Shane. Excited for the weekend to see how he looks. Just before we wrap things up, Caroline, I just wanted to throw it over to you if you've got any closing words to the listeners. And also, don't forget to plug your social media handles, my friend.
Yeah. So, I mean, to anyone who's watching and is supporting the Karen Dubois train and is jumping on for the journey. I'm so thankful, and the support has been it's been noticed, it's been appreciated, and I just want to be someone who can keep showing up and keep performing for you guys, the fans, and obviously whoever's watching. And I appreciate, be given the spotlight and appreciate, given the time. So thank you to you, and thank you to everyone who's watching the journey.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Caroline. You didn't plug your socials. I'll do that for you. On Twitter /X, it's at @SDuboisC. And then on Instagram, it is __, so 2 underscores, Caroline Dubois 1. I think I'm right in saying all that.
Yep, that's right.
Perfect. Listen, Caroline, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show. Congrats once again on that brilliant win, and we'll speak again real soon, I'm sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. We're going to start here with this. 2 unbeaten heavyweight rivals step in the ring. They get in the ring on March the 31st at the O2 Arena. Big venue for that fight, I think. But we're going to see Fraser Clark stepping in the ring with Fabio Wardley. It's going to be for the British and Commonwealth titles. Again, the date for that is March the 31st at the O2. It's going to be live on Sky Sports. I don't know if they have announced the undercard just yet. I don't think it has been announced just yet, but it's going to need, I think, a big undercard there, because like I said, it's a big venue to go for there. What else do we have? The fact that Tyson Fury against Alexander Usyk, it wasn't too far away. It's now, of course, off, unfortunately. Tyson Fury sustained a cut in sparring in the build-up. Completely devastating stuff, actually, to hear that. Obviously, the weeks were just kind of flying by, like we were super excited. It wasn't too far away. I think it was a couple weeks away, and then boom, a cut comes in sparring and Fury has to pull out. They've rescheduled a date for May, but there's not too much to read into. I think that's very, very soon considering the cut, but what do I know? I don't want to talk too much about that, but let's move straight on to the preview part. There's a card that takes place later today. It's a strange one. It's on a Thursday night, of course. It's going to be live on Sky Sports at 1:30 a.m., which, technically speaking, is the early hours of Friday. But let's start with the undercard. We're going to see good prospect Abdullah Mason, 11-0 in an 8-rounder against Benjamin Gurment, who's 8-0 with 3 draws. We're also going to see Keyshawn Davis, 9-0, one of my favourite prospects to watch. He's back in a 10-rounder against a man I've always been a big fan of, Jose Pedraza, still only been stopped just the one time in his 5 losses to Gervonta Tank Davis all those years ago, back in 2017. He's 29-5 with a draw, Pedraza. It's just over a year since he last boxed. He lost to Arnold Barboza Jr., and he actually hasn't picked up a win since June of 2021, so he's obviously seeming to be at the very end of his career. But only ever lost in good company. Arnold Barboza Jr., Jose Ramirez, Vasyl Lomachenko, Gervonta Davis, Jose Zepeda. These are all top guys that he's lost to. So Keyshawn hasn't proved just yet that he's on that level, but it might be the right time for him. But I'm really excited for that one there. I think it will be, it'll go the distance, I think. I don't think Keyshawn's going to stop Jose, but I think Jose also is worth a punt on points if he, isn't hampered too much by the recent, ring rust or ring inactivity or just general form. And then the main event is a very intriguing one, Eddie, for me here. It's a 12-rounder. Teofimo Lopez, friend of the show, 19-1, defending his WBO super lightweight world title against 17-1-1 Jermaine Ortiz. Again, the one loss came to Lomachenko in a very, very close fight. He's been back in the ring just once since then, so it's not been too great, because that Lomachenko fight was, October 2022. He boxed just once in it was back in September 2023 there. A nice win on points, unanimous against Antonio Moran. But yeah, this is a really, really interesting fight because Teofimo Lopez, despite obviously last time looking pretty good against Josh Taylor, I don't think he's looked that great since moving up to 140. I think I've said this before. He beat Pedro Campa, but I don't know how good Campa was. He definitely lost to Sandor Martin, but he got the decision. And Josh Taylor, I think we saw in the Jack Catterall fight that he isn't quite the same fighter he was. But credit to him, he beat Taylor. I thought that he would win. I remember backing him to win. I think he was the underdog, but he did win. And he gets in with a really good operator here in Jermaine Ortiz. And I tell you what, I'd like to see Teofimo win. He's a friend of the show, but I would not count Jermaine Ortiz out at all. I think he's a really more than live underdog. I think he's just over 4-1, which I think is insane odds. And that's just to win by any method. I don't think he's going to stop Teofimo Lopez, but 9-1 to win on points. That's crazy in my opinion there. Do you want to have a say on that at all, Eddie, before we move on to the next card?
I think that's a real underrated fight, an underrated fighter. Ortiz, he got game. He can fight. He's not no average average bum out there. Not saying he's not even no inflated records or anything like that. Not to say that he's had the craziest opposition, but he has proven by getting there with Lomachenko that he's not just an average guy. He can fight. So you can't look past him. If you're Lopez, you absolutely cannot look past him. He's a pretty good boxer, good IQ. Definitely knows his way around the ring. It's an interesting fight. For him to be a 4-1 dog, I mean, I guess it's when you think about it, it's the fame, it's the punching power. There's a lot of reasons, that Teofimo can be a big, favored. But I don't think it's anything necessarily 100% of what's going on in the ring, because Jermaine Ortiz can fight, and most guys wouldn't just look past him or think he's going to be somebody that's going to be a blowover. So, it's going to be interesting. I'm actually excited. I'm kind of interested. Not more than kind of. I'm really interested. It's one of those kind of fights that flies under the radar, but then turns out to be maybe possibly, maybe not fight of the year, but at least, maybe even upset. You never know of the year. But it just turns out to be really, really interesting. I think it's going to be a high level of skill. There's a lot to it. So yeah, looking forward to it actually.
Yeah, all the best to both men there. Jermaine Ortiz obviously beat Jamel Herring, the last man to beat Jamel Herring. Moving now to the Indigo at the O2, which is a tiny venue, just a kind of little venue within a venue, if you like, in the O2 arena. In London, it's going to be live on DAZN. It's not a fantastic card, but let's run through it. Friend of the show, Shannon Ryan, 6-0. She steps in with 6-0 Jasmina Zapotoxna, who I've never heard of, but again, that's over 10-2s there at super flyweight. We're also going to see friend of the show Craig Richards in a good fight here, 17-3 with a draw. First fight under his new trainer Shane McGuigan. He gets in with Boris Crichton, who's 12-4. It's over 10 rounds there at light heavyweight. We've seen Crichton recently in the losing corner, but he stepped up against Callum Simpson, against Lyndon Arthur, and he's never been stopped. He's been stopped just the one time, and it was early on in his career to Diego Costa. That was 5 years or 4 years ago now. So, interesting fight there. I don't know how much notice both guys have had, because I believe this fight got announced just a few days ago. So I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, good to see Craig Richards back. He hasn't boxed in over a year. His last fight was against Buatsi. I was at that in May of 2022, so it's been quite a long time out the ring. But yeah, the main event, all eyes to that for the British and Commonwealth super featherweight titles. We're going to see Liam Dillon 13-0 with a draw, coming off a good win last time out against Kez Ashfaq. He steps in with Reece Bellotti, 17-5, a guy that I have been a big fan of for years and years. Again, I gave him a lot of credit on the end of year podcast guest. What am I talking about? The end of year podcast awards for last year. Gave him a lot of credit. Bellotti, he had a heck of a year in 2023. Domestically, beat Yusuf Kamari, beat Akib Fiaz. He's on a completely fantastic run. He's got some serious momentum at the moment. It looked like he was down and out in his career, but he seems to be back as good as ever before, and I would love to see him win. He is actually the slight favourite for Saturday, so all the best to him. Moving now to the Copper Box Arena, this one to take place in Hackney Wick. It's going to be live on TNT Sport. This is the second to last card. Let's start with the undercard. Karol Itauma, 11-1, back in an 8-rounder here. He gets in with Eros Segeti, who's 10-0 with a draw. Just want to take a little quick look at this guy here. Eros Segeti. The guy is from Italy, 30 years of age. Oh boy. Not a great record in terms of the guys he's beaten. He also drew with a guy 2.5 years ago who was 4-2 with a draw, so I'm not expecting too much. However, Karol Itauma, I remember being there when he got upset and knocked out, so I don't know. I don't think his ceiling's too high. But anyway, he's on the card. Best of luck to him. Also on the bill as well, we're going to see Anthony Yarde, 24-3. He's had the one fight since losing to Artur Beterbiev, but he gets back in here with Marko Nikolic, who's 32-3. Been stopped twice in his 3 losses. The Serbian lost to Ivan Zuko, got stopped by him in 2 rounds, got stopped by Sergei Gorakov in round 10. I'm going to be honest. He's put together all these wins, 32 wins. He's had 35 fights, but you look through his record and I'm really struggling to recognise any names here. So it's quite a padded record there, and the bookies are expecting Anthony Yarde to walk through this guy, stop him quite easily. Also on the card, intriguing fight here, I think. We're going to see Masoud Abdullah, who's 9-0. He gets in with Kez Ashfaq, who's 12-2. It's over 10 rounds there at featherweight. All the best to both men. Friend of the show, Sam Noakes, as well on the card. 12-0 with 12 KOs. He gets in with former sparring partner Luis Sylvester, who's 13-0. Somebody's must go. It's for the Commonwealth and WBC International Silver Lightweight titles. All the best to Big Sam Noakes there. I say Big Sam Noakes, big punching Sam Noakes, I should say. He's from Maidstone, his hands are made of stone. That is him. Cannot wait to see him back. And also on the card, we're going to see the main event, really intriguing contest between Hamza Shiraz, 18-0, and Liam Williams, friend of the show, 25-4 with a draw. This one for the WBC Silver Middleweight title and the Commonwealth Middleweight title. Hamza Shiraz is on such an incredible run now. He's been knocking people out. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 stoppages in a row. He gets in with Liam Williams, who, at one point was looking unbelievable. He also was knocking many people out. He put together 7 knockouts in a row going into that Demetrius Andrade fight, and he got completely outclassed against Andrade. It was a nightmare start for him. He had some moments late on, but he got completely outclassed and the scorecards reflected that. Then he got in with Chris Eubank Jr. and I expected a lot more from him, but I couldn't believe it when I saw him on the deck 4 times in total. I just didn't know what happened. It seemed like his punch resistance wasn't there. I have heard that he perforated his eardrum in the build up to the fight and should have pulled out. I don't know about, I don't know. That's just what I heard. And obviously you can believe that 100%, or you can say, I'm not so sure. It might have had something to do with the power of Chris Eubank Jr. and the fact that maybe he got outclassed. But since then, he's had 2 fights, a second-round knockout against Nizar Trimech, who was really badly overmatched, and then last time a first-round knockout against Florin Cardos, again, who was really overmatched. So I don't know what to make of Liam Williams right now. It looked like at one point after that Andrade fight, after that Chris Eubank fight, that he was done and dusted. But he's come back with 2 brilliant wins, but against really low-level guys. So I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what to make of it, to be honest with you. If he is on his game, again, he's a very, very, very live underdog, potentially even for a knockout. But I don't expect this one to go the distance. I just can't see it going 12 rounds. But the knockout could come either way. It depends, I think, what, Liam Williams has left. But he's 4-1 just to win by any method, and he's 13-2 for the KO, which is mental odds there. They're almost too good to pass up. But all the best to both men, particularly Liam Williams being a friend of the show. And then the final card to mention, it goes down at the Hawaiian Gardens, which sounds really, really nice. And then you find out it's actually not in Hawaii. It's in California, USA. Over here, friend of the show, Ernesto Mercado, 13-0 with 12 KOs. Very exciting super lightweight prospect. He's back in an 8-rounder here against Victoriano Antonio Santillan, who is 11-6 with 2 draws. All the best there to Ernesto Mercado. The only man to take him the distance was Zolisani and Dongeni, who we saw about 6 weeks ago get stopped against Arnold Barboza Jr., which was quite surprising. But without going off on a tangent, this opponent, Victoriano Santillan, 6 losses. He's been stopped twice in those 6 losses. He got stopped by Williams Herrera, and he got stopped by Alejandro Silva, guys that I'm only learning their name for the first time. So he is coming off a TKO win against a guy who was 11-1 with a draw in his last fight. A guy called Benjamin Dubois, funny enough. I doubt he's related in any way to Caroline or Daniel. But all the best to Ernesto Mercado in this one. He is the friend of the show. But anyway, that is it though for the preview part. In part 1, we did the review part. Then we welcomed our special guest, sweet Caroline Dubois. And in part 2, we did the news. We just wrapped up the preview part. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 434 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A huge shout out to this week's special guest, the undefeated and reigning IBO Female Lightweight Champion of the World, that being Miss Sweet Caroline Dubois. The biggest thanks of all though goes out to you, the listeners. Thanks once again for tuning in. That's about everything though from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again same time next week.